Have you ever made a mistake so colossal it shattered your entire world? I'm talking about the kind of error that leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself. Well, buckle up, because I'm about to take you on a roller coaster ride through my biggest regret and the redemption I never saw coming. I'm Leonard Blake, and until recently, I was nothing more than a cold-hearted billionaire with a chip on my shoulder the size of Mount Everest. My story involves a hard-working maid named Maria Alcazar, her tech-savvy daughter Clara, and a series of events that would turn my perfectly controlled life upside down. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. How far would you go to protect everything you've built? And at what cost? Keep that in mind as I lay bare the ugly truth of my actions and the unexpected twist that brought me to my knees. It all began on a crisp autumn morning in my Beverly Hills mansion. I remember the day vividly. The sun was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across my pristine marble floors. I was in my study, surrounded by the trappings of my success, priceless art, rare first editions, and a safe that held my most valuable possessions. As I approached the safe to retrieve some documents, my blood ran cold. The door was slightly ajar, and I just knew, something was terribly wrong. With trembling hands, I yanked it open, and my worst fears were confirmed. My great-grandmother's diamond necklace, worth millions, was gone. So were the documents detailing my company's latest acquisition, papers that could sink my entire empire if they fell into the wrong hands. Panic gave way to rage. I stormed out of the study, bellowing for my head of security. "Check the cameras," I roared. "I want to know who's been in here." Within the hour, we were reviewing the footage. And there she was, Maria Alcazar, my head maid of 5 years, lingering by the study door well past her usual hours. My mind, already primed for betrayal, leaped to the worst conclusion. I didn't stop to consider her years of loyal service. I didn't pause to remember how she'd cared for this house, and by extension for me, with unwavering dedication. No, in that moment, all I saw was a threat to everything I'd built. "Call the police," I ordered, my voice cold as ice, "and bring her to me." What happened next still makes me cringe with shame. I confronted Maria in front of the entire household staff, my accusations flying like poisoned darts. Her face, usually warm and kind, crumpled in disbelief and hurt. "Mr. Blake," she pleaded, her accent thickening with emotion, "I would never steal from you. I've served this house faithfully for years. Please, there must be some mistake." But I was deaf to her pleas. In my fury, I saw only a thief, a liar, someone taking advantage of my trust. As the police arrived and began to cuff her, Maria looked at me one last time. Her eyes, brimming with tears, held not anger but a profound sadness. "You're falling into someone's trap," she said softly. "Someone who really wants to destroy you." Those words should have given me pause. They should have made me question my hasty judgment. But in my arrogance, I dismissed them as the desperate lies of a guilty woman. As Maria was led away, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. I'd caught the culprit. My possessions would be returned, order would be restored. How wrong I was. The days that followed were a blur of police reports and security upgrades. I was so focused on fortifying my fortress that I failed to notice the cracks forming in its very foundation. It wasn't until a week later that my world truly began to unravel. I was in my office, poring over financial reports, when my personal phone, a number known to only a select few, began to ring. The caller ID was blocked. Irritated, I answered. "Blake speaking." "Mr. Blake," a young, trembling voice came through. "It's Clara, Maria Alcazar's daughter." I nearly hung up. What could this girl possibly want? To beg for her mother's job back? To threaten me with a lawsuit? But something in her voice, a mix of fear and determination, made me listen. "Mr. Blake, my mum is innocent. I can prove it." I scoffed. "Young lady, the evidence was tampered with," she interrupted. "The security footage was altered. I can show you how." My first instinct was to dismiss her claims, but a nagging doubt had taken root in my mind, fertilized by Maria's parting words. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet Clara. An hour later, this teenage girl was standing in my home office, her laptop open on my desk. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up the security footage I'd reviewed a week ago. "Watch closely," she instructed, her voice steadier now. She zoomed in on a section of the video, advancing it frame by frame. "See that flicker? It's almost imperceptible, but it's there. That's a sign of digital manipulation." I leaned in, squinting at the screen, and there it was, a tiny glitch, lasting less than a second. My stomach dropped. Clara wasn't done. She pulled up another program, running the video through some sort of analysis. "This software detects inconsistencies in digital files," she explained. "Your footage is full of them." As the evidence mounted, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. How could I have been so blind, so quick to judge? "But who?" I muttered, more to myself than to Clara. "Who would do this?" Clara's face hardened. "I think I know," she said, "but you're not going to like it." She pulled up a series of emails, correspondence I recognized immediately. They were between me and Nathaniel Grayson, my biggest rival in the real estate world. But interspersed were messages I'd never seen before, discussing plans to sabotage my company, to frame Maria, to bring me down from the inside. "How did you get these?" I demanded. Clara had the grace to look slightly ashamed. "I may have done some ethically questionable hacking. But Mr. Blake, someone's been using your private server as a backdoor. And it's not just Mr. Grayson. Look at this." She pulled up another email chain, and my blood ran cold. The messages were from Thomas, my right-hand man for the past decade. The man I'd trusted with everything. As I read through Thomas's betrayal in black and white, I felt a fury unlike anything I'd ever experienced. But it was different this time, a cold, focused anger. I'd been played for a fool, and it was time to set things right. "Clara," I said, my voice eerily calm, "I need you to send all of this to my lawyer. Now." As Clara worked, I made a series of calls to my security team to upgrade our systems immediately, to the police to drop all charges against Maria, and finally to Maria herself. The conversation with Maria was the hardest thing I've ever done. How do you apologize for destroying someone's life? For doubting their integrity? For treating them as less than human? Maria's response floored me. Instead of the anger I expected, I heard only relief and concern. "Mr. Blake," she said, her voice warm despite everything, "I'm just glad the truth is out. But please be careful. If these people were willing to go this far..." Her warning was prescient. That very night, as I was working late in my study, I heard a crash from downstairs. Then another, the sound of breaking glass, of heavy footsteps. My security system should have alerted me to any intruders. But as I reached for my phone to call for help, I realized with dawning horror that it was dead. No signal, no Wi-Fi. We were cut off. I was trapped in my own home with unknown assailants closing in. For the first time in years, I felt truly, achingly vulnerable. Then, just as panic threatened to overwhelm me, I heard a familiar voice. "Mr. Blake, this way." It was Maria. Somehow she was here, gesturing frantically from a hidden door I hadn't even known existed. "Quickly," she hissed, "there's a passage that leads to the guest house. We can call for help from there." I didn't hesitate. As the sound of footsteps grew closer, I dove into the passage, Maria right behind me. We made our way through the dark, narrow corridor, our breath coming in short gasps. "How did you know about this?" I whispered as we ran. "I've worked here for years, Mr. Blake," she replied. "I know this house better than anyone. Even you, it seems." We emerged in the guest house, and Maria immediately went for the landline. As she dialed 911, I peered out the window, my heart pounding. I could see shadowy figures moving through the main house. How many were there? What were they after? "The police are on their way," Maria said, hanging up the phone. "We just need to stay hidden until they arrive." As we huddled in the darkness, waiting for the cavalry, I was struck by the absurdity of the situation. Here I was, a billionaire cowering in my own guest house, relying on the woman I'd wrongly accused of theft to save my life. "Maria," I said softly, "I don't deserve your help. After what I did..." She cut me off with a gentle smile. "Mr. Blake, forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to see the humanity in others, even when they can't see it in themselves." Her words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity how empty my life had been. how I'd surrounded myself with wealth and power, but had pushed away any chance at real human connection. The wail of sirens broke the silence of the night. Within minutes, the police had swarmed the property, apprehending Grayson, Thomas, and their hired thugs. As dawn broke, I stood on my front lawn, watching as they were led away in handcuffs. Maria stood beside me, a comforting presence in the chaos. "What will you do now?" she asked quietly. I took a deep breath, feeling as though I was waking from a long, dark dream. "I'm going to make things right," I said, "starting with you and Clara." In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into repairing the damage I'd done. I made a public apology to Maria, clearing her name and acknowledging my grievous error. I set up a trust fund for Clara's education, ensuring she could pursue her dreams without financial worry. But it didn't feel like enough. The experience had shaken me to my core, forcing me to confront the man I'd become. I realized that my wealth, my power, none of it meant anything if I couldn't use it to make a positive difference in the world. So I made a decision that shocked the business world. I transformed my Beverly Hills mansion, that symbol of excess and isolation, into a community center for immigrant families. A place where people like Maria and Clara could find support, education, and opportunity. As I stand here today, watching families stream into what was once my private sanctuary, I'm filled with a sense of purpose I've never known before. Maria works here now, not as a maid, but as the center's director. Her kindness and wisdom guide everything we do. And me? I'm learning to listen, to empathize, to see the value in every person who walks through our doors. It's not always easy. Old habits die hard, and I still struggle with my need for control. But every day, I try to be a little better than I was the day before. So, dear reader, I leave you with this question. What in your life needs to change? What assumptions have you made about others that might be blinding you to their true worth? And most importantly, how can you use your own unique gifts to lift up those around you? Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your story. Trust me, I'm living proof. Don't forget to follow this channel and turn on notifications for more stories that will challenge your perspectives and warm your heart. And if you haven't already, check out our exclusive playlist of redemption stories. You won't want to miss a single one. Until next time, this is Leonard Blake, signing off. A changed man, thanks to an accused maid who showed me the true meaning of integrity and forgiveness.